Good evening. This is the September 19th meeting of the Wallingford Zoning Board of Appeals. Before we start the meeting, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight's decisions will be published in the Record Journal on Friday, September 23rd, 2016. The effective date of your variance will be Friday, September 23rd, 2016. The date a certified copy is recorded on the land records. The statutory 15-day appeal period will expire on Sunday, October 16th, 2016. If you commence operation and/or construction during the appeal period, you do so at your own risk. I'd like to introduce our newest member, Mr. James Hines, who will be an alternate, and David Pellerin, who's now a full, Pelletier, who's now a full commissioner. And voting in Mr. Wolford's place tonight will be Ms. Tata. First hearing tonight is (16-20), a request from Booth for a building height of 12.5 feet where a maximum 10 feet is permitted, in an area of 715.5 square feet where a maximum of 300 feet is permitted, to construct an accessory building, a pool house, at 2 Bartholomew Lane in an RU 120 district. Anyone here for that? Sure. Thank you. Would you explain your need for a variance to the commission, please?
Sure. First of all, my name is Frederick Booth. This is my wife, Kristen, and we own 2 Bartholomew. The reason why we're asking for the variance is that we live at 2 Bartholomew is a corner lot. We only have one neighbor on one side and one behind us, yet both are hidden, shielded from our line of view and their line of view by brush and vegetation. The land slopes from North Branford Road, down from the side of the yard, down to where we want to construct the pool house. The foundation of the pool house would be approximately 15 feet below North Branford Road. No neighboring sight lines are disturbed and will not interfere with their view or their enjoyment of the property. Our house is a fairly large house. It's approximately 6,000 square feet. Is 3 stories tall because the basement is a walkout. Hence, the pool house and the pool are roughly 15 feet below street line. All the lots on our street are a minimum of 3 acres. We have approximately 3.8 acres. The pool house would certainly be in proportion with our house. It would complement our house and would keep the character and the integrity of our neighborhood intact. Also, with your granting of the variance would allow us to make use of our size of the property. It certainly would, we believe it would add value to our property and also the neighborhood. If you're not aware, our house was abandoned approximately for about 18 months. We purchased it from the bank almost a year ago to the day. Our neighbors have, from what we've heard and we've spoken to them personally, have been nothing but happy with the progress of the home. The closed-in portion of the pool house is actually only 120 square feet. The rest, it is one side closed in, that would be a bathroom and a changing room. What the extra square feet really is a roof and the overhangs. When we purchased the house, we had to clear approximately 2.5 acres worth of brush, mostly prickers. There weren't even trees back there. They were basically weeds that turned into trees. They were cleared earlier in the year. The yard was cleared earlier in the year to make room for the pool house, et cetera. Now that we're entering the home stretch of the renovations, we'd appreciate a variance, as we've spent thousands upon thousands of dollars with contractors and architects. Thank you. We also, by the way, thank you, by clearing the brush, there is actually no shade in the backyard at all, hence we have no trees. And having the extra shade, extra square feet of the pool house would give us a little relief as well.
You have anything else to add?
No, thank you.
So in other words, because the pool area is quite a bit lower than the Bartholomew Drive, when you drive past, you probably won't even be able to see the roof of the pool house, is that?
That's a good chance. I mean, because it's so set in deep into the property. Sorry for the rudimentary pictures.
Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Yes, Mr.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What would you say is the specific hardship that would require building a structure that was more than 300 square feet that's allowable?
Well, the size, we would like it to match our home, and home is fairly large. If we built a much smaller one, we would probably injure our resale value, as you'd like to have all the parts of the home to match. Also, we do have young kids. We are putting a bathroom in there, so hopefully they don't go in the pool. Also with the shade, so they have some relief to go in there, and we do as well.
How far would you say the pool is from the house now? In the map I'm looking at, it looks no more than maybe 30 feet or so. Is that correct?
30 feet, and they'd have to go up 2 or 3 flights of stairs, would you say, to get up into the pool, into the home?
Yeah, it's a multi-level deck to get up into the house.
Okay. Would you be able to still put in a bathroom facility if it were a 300 square foot building that was there?
Well, the issue would be only a bathroom, really, and an area. If you are entertaining, you'd be difficult to get people in there to also enjoy the property. Certainly possible, but what we're building really is more of a roof than a actual building. You can't live in there.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? You're going to have a little bar in there as well?
Do you want to come over?
Well, it's, I don't know what type of appliances we'd put in there, simply because it's not going to be closed on all sides and won't be closed for the winter. So there may be a countertop, could be a bar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wish to speak against the application? Seeing none, I close the public hearing and leave it up to the commission for motions or
Mr. Chairman,
discussion. Yes.
I make a motion to approve the application, better use of the property without altering the character of the neighborhood.
Second.
Motion to approve. Ms. Tata?
Yes.
Mr. Desjardins?
No.
Mr. Rice?
Yes.
Mr. Ruzek,
Yes.
and Chairman Bernie.
Yes. Congratulations, you have your variance.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next application is 16, on the agenda it says, it's 1622. David Lang from 4212, rather, Jeffrey Drive, needs a variance. Mr. Lang in the audience, or?
Hi, David Lang, 12 Jeffrey Drive, Wallingford.
Thank you. Would you explain your application to the,
Yeah, I have a shed that I want to remove and replace with a garage. And I can put a single-car garage without an exception for square footage. And I'm looking to try to do a two-car garage with one car opening, which will give me storage on both sides. So I'm asking for, I think it's roughly 300, or 226 or 300 square feet additional.
Mr. Chairman, if I may interject a point of interest for this, for Mr. Lang, that I've stumbled upon, and actually his variance, or his special exception, excuse me, is for lesser square feet. He shorted himself. The regulations state that he can have up to 50% of his gross living area. Therefore, the calculation is 1,149 square feet that he has, and he's seeking 1,200.
Oh, okay.
So it's actually more favorable, and I just had not had a chance to advise the board or Mr. Lang.
I have a question for the planning office. What is the rear setback in that zone?
I think it's 7 feet, if memory recalls.
Rear setback is 30 feet.
Rear
An
setback?
RU40 district.
He got a setback here of 9 feet.
Is a detached garage.
Yes.
Yes, detached garages do not have to comply with the rear setbacks if they're in the rear of the yard.
Okay.
They can be
Thank
5 feet off the property line on both, on side and rear.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for the applicant?
I do. Bernie?
Go ahead.
What's the primary use of this garage going to be for?
It's for storage.
Just storage, or is there not going to be any repairing of cars or anything?
No. I mean, I have a trailer that I move around or put there. But no, there's not going to be a driveway to it. It's just lawn going up to it. So, I mean, I have tractors and lawn furniture and junk,
Okay.
as my wife would say, but no, it's no,
That'd be one heck of a driveway if you put it in.
yeah, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Why build the garage in sort of the rear left corner of the property, so close to neighbors?
Well, that's where the shed is, and there's a fence in the back. The neighbors on either side, the tree line that I have on the side of my property pretty much blocks everything. And the fence in the back would, it's not going to block it all, but it blocks a good percentage of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lang, I just have a couple questions. One is, you're going to use this garage for storage, I
Yep.
think you said. And you said some lawn equipment you're going to store back there, maybe patio furniture?
Yeah,
Where is that stuff stored now?
it's pretty much in the shed, or it stays out on the patio.
Okay.
I have a shed there now that's, I think it's, I don't know, 10 by 16 or something.
Okay.
That's
Is-
coming out.
Is there a specific reason that you feel that you need more room than what you have with the shed now?
Yeah, I can't put the stuff I have inside.
Okay, so some of that stuff is stored outside, is that?
Presently, yeah.
Okay. And then, in your application, you also provided sort of an aerial view from Google Maps.
Yep.
And it appears from the picture that there's a number of trees in between where your current shed is and the road. Would that be accurate?
Along the side of the property, yeah.
Yeah, there looks like there's trees along the side. And then if I were standing at the street, looking into your backyard on the left-hand side of your house, would there be trees that would block my view of where the shed is in your backyard?
Pretty much. There may be like one spot you could stand where you could look in and see it.
Okay.
It would be most visible from the right side because it's more open on the right.
Yeah, I see that. Would any of those trees need to be cut down for you to put this garage in?
No, none of the, I'm not planning on cutting any trees and none of the side trees for sure. There's one maple tree there that I don't think I have to cut.
Okay, so the same cover would be there for the garage that's there now for the shed, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? You have anything else to add?
Nope, I think so.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wish to speak against the application? Seeing none, I close the public hearing and open it up to the commission for motions, et cetera.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve this application for better use of the land without changing the character of the neighborhood.
Second.
Motion to approve, Ms. Tata.
Yes.
Mr. Desjardins.
Yes.
Mr. Rice.
Yes.
Mr. Ruzek.
Yes.
Chairman Bernie.
Yes, you're all set.
Okay, thanks.
Next application is 16023 for a side yard variance at 902 South Colony Road. Evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Okay.
For your record, my name is Dennis Senaviva. My office is in Meriden. To my left is Dominic DiMartino. He's a principal in the applicant 902 Colony Realty, LLC. The property, as you know from the application, is a parcel of land 59,878 square feet. It's located in the CB 40 zone on the southern end of South Colony. It is currently developed, as I think you see with the applications, with the following buildings. There is a 2,315 square foot retail building with a second floor apartment located along the northerly boundary of the site. And that building, again, the second floor is only half the area, half the size of the first floor. The first floor is about 90 by 26, and the second floor approximately 45 by 26. There is also currently a 1,138 square foot two-family house located along the southerly portion of this property. And then thirdly, in the middle, on the easterly of these two buildings, is an existing garage. Now, the proposal this evening is to extend the second floor on the existing two-story building on the northerly side of the property, to take that area that is now just a half of a second floor and to expand or extend that second floor the same size, the same distance, the same location as the first floor. So it's really just taking the second floor and matching the dimensions of the first floor. in order to relocate the 2 dwelling units from the southerly building, because the plan would be to raise the 2-family separate building on the southerly side and also to raise the existing garage. So you would go from 3 buildings to 1 building should this be approved. I might add that this matter is currently before your P&Z, but I think Ms. Costello recognized or opined that we needed a variance in order to extend the 2nd floor of the existing northerly building, and that's why we're here. And that was because this northerly building is currently 3.6 feet away from our northern abutter, which is the side yard. The side yard requirement is 20 feet in the CB40 zone. So this is pre-existing, non-conforming building that, again, is 3.6 feet away from the property line. And the applicant therefore needs apparently a variance to extend the existing 2nd floor the full length of the 1st floor. It will not further encroach, certainly, on the side yard. It would remain, as you see from the application, interestingly drafted as it's 3.6 feet off the side yard. Now we're asking to remain 3.6 feet off. We're just looking to extend the size of the 2nd floor to make it match the 1st floor. Now, what's the hardship? The hardship arises, as our application suggests, from the elimination of 6 existing nonconformities, while the proposed expansion would not further encroach, again, on the side yard, the northerly side yard. It would be exactly configured as the 1st floor. And what are those nonconformities limited by the variance? Remember, this is all pre-existing, older building that pre-exists the zoning regulations. The first, as you look at the plan that we've submitted, is that it would remove the current parking spaces that are located within the state right-of-way. I think that's a good thing. My client thinks that's a good thing. So that would be removed from where they currently exist. As importantly, we would remove the existing parking in the required front yard setback. As you probably know, there's a requirement of landscape buffers along Route 5, and we would be able to do that with our new plan. And matter of fact, the plan before P&Z, should this be approved, does call for the requisite landscape buffer along the frontage. So again, the existing parking would be removed in the front yard setback. It would cure that nonconformity. The third is we would remove the existing paving in the front yard. Again, there's no paving permitted. Again, it has to be a landscaped area. Fourth, we would raise the existing 2-family house, which is located on the southerly portion of the site. That is located both within the front yard requirement, so that's already a violation. Again, that existing 2-family is within the front yard setback. And number 5, it is also within the side yard setback. It is only 7 feet from the southerly property line where 20 feet is required. So by raising that building, by getting rid of that building, we would be eliminating those 2 nonconformities, bringing the property more into compliance. And lastly, by raising the existing 2-family house and the garage, we would be reducing by 40% the total nonconformity of the building footprint on this site. The overall impact, obviously, to the site is to make the property more zoning compliant. The plan is to build, again, extend this 2nd floor, rehabilitate the site, make it more attractive. It would remove the residential presence from its own separate building, fronting on South Colony. And so I would opine or offer that it doesn't provide any deleterious effect to the town's comprehensive plan of zoning. Importantly, too, it's not, I think, on the plan that before you, but the proposal before P&Z has access to this property coming through a cross easement with the property next door at 920 that Mr. DiMartino also owns. And so that would also reduce the number of curb cuts along South County, which historically I know this board and P&Z have been most concerned about. So the overall impact of granting what I think is a fairly innocuous request of extending the 2nd floor to match the 1st floor. In exchange, there are the reduction of 6 nonconformities, and you have a much safer layout in the overall development. So that's our plea, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Hines?
I just have one question. Are there any nonconformities that will still exist after this project is completed?
The building, the northerly building will still be 3 feet 6 inches off of the property line. It won't be exacerbated, it'll be the same.
Okay, and which property line is it?
The northern,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions for the applicant?
Now, you're going to have 3 apartments on the second floor? That's where you're going to?
That's correct. The two-family would be removed, and then the units would go up above the retail space.
And stay retail at the bottom?
That's
first
correct.
floor. How many parking spaces, and it's not part of this, but I just, out of curiosity, did you gain?
14.
You gained?
You need 14 altogether, and we have those under the site plan that's been submitted to P&C.
I'm familiar with the property. It's a nice job you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Also.
No further questions? Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wish to speak against the application? Seeing none, I close the public hearing and leave it to the commission for motions, et cetera.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the application, better use of the property without altering the character of the neighborhood.
Second?
Motion to approve, Ms. Tata.
Yes.
Mr. Desjardins.
Yes.
Mr. Rice. Mr. Ruzek.
Yes.
Chairman Bernie.
Yes. Your application is approved. Thank you. Next application, 16024, 127 Algonquin Drive. He's requesting a side setback of 4 feet where 30 feet are required. Yes, step right up to the table there. And state your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name's Mary Ann Cressman. The address is 127 Algonquin Drive, and this is my husband, Barry.
Okay. You want to explain your application to
Sure.
us?
We're requesting a variance to construct a two-car garage in place...
Excuse me, could you pull the microphone closer to
Oh,
you?
sure. A two-car garage to replace the existing one-car garage that's on our property.
That's the gist of you want to make a two-car garage or a one-car garage? you think?
Exactly. The current garage is not in the best of shape. It could use replacing anyway. It also has no access directly to the house, so we plan to correct that problem when we build the garage. The other issue with it is the roof line opposes the roof line of the house, and of course, because it's attached, that directs water toward the house, which is now causing an issue, what we'd have to repair anyway, so that's why we decided to try to move forward with a two-car. While we were fixing everything, we might as well make it better.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant?
So the reason you stated in your application that you weren't able to build this larger garage in a different part of the property is because of your proximity to wetlands. Is that correct?
Yes, on the west side of the property, there is a strip of wetlands that goes between my house and my neighbor's. So we really couldn't move it to that end of the house. It is kind of a narrow lot. It's about 3/4 of an acre, but it's like way back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Anyone in the neighborhood, I'm sorry, anyone in the audience wish to approve this? Anyone against the application? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. Leave it up to the commission for motions, et cetera.
I make a motion to approve this application, better use of the property, without altering the character of the neighborhood.
Second.
Motion to approve, Ms. Tata.
Yes.
Mr. Desjardins.
Yes.
Mr. Rice.
Yes.
Mr. Ruzek.
Yes.
Chairman Bernie.
Yes. You're approved.
Thank you.
Next application, 1625, application from 16 Town Farm Road, which is a variance to use 16.8% of his lot coverage. 15% is required by regulation. Build a garage.
Hi, my name is Dorina Wasik, 16 Town Farm Road. This is Jim Twiggs, a friend of mine who's actually going to build the garage if I get the variance. The garage is to replace, a two-car garage to replace a very small shed that's in the yard. My hardship is I need to store two cars that are, one's a convertible I only use in the summer, and I like to get it out of the driveway away from the snow and everything for the winter, which would make more space in my driveway so I can keep the cars off the road. And the second is I'm due to inherit a rather large classic car, which I need to store. I like to store it in my yard.
Anyone have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Desjardins.
So why does the garage need to be the size that it is, the 24 by 30 the correct dimensions?
Correct.
I want to replace the shed, which has, I have a large amount of lawn furniture, an embarrassing large amount of lawn furniture, which is stored in the shed, my garage, other people's houses. And the car that I'm going to inherit is 18 and a half feet long, and I'd like to have a little space so I don't hit anything with it.
And your largest problem is that under the current arrangement, you need to be parking in the street?
Well, I have two cars of my own, normally, sometimes more. And if it's, the driveway fits two cars, just barely. And if someone is over and it's bad weather, they have to park on the street. And I live on Town Farm Road where the plows are going back and forth, and it's kind of a hardship on the driver. I feel bad for the drivers too. My car gets things thrown on it and they have to maneuver around. And they come in and out all the time.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? Mr. Rice?
Are you planning to pave this?
No,
I didn't think so.
no. The convertible comes out in the spring when the snow melts. It goes back in when the first snowflake falls. The other car would just come out a few times a year to go to a show.
It just seemed like a very long distance, and
Yeah, it's going to be just, I don't need to shovel any more driveway than I already have.
I know. That's it.
And what is it that you're going to put in the garage?
I am putting a 1960 Lincoln Continental Mark V.
Okay.
It's 18 and a half feet long, the longest unibody car produced. And my mother used to drive me to school with it when I was like 5 years old, so I'm very attached to it.
Okay. Any other questions from the commission? Yes, Mr. Hines.
Just a quick question. Are you aware of any other homes that have garages in the backyard on your street?
The house next door to me,
Okay.
on the left-hand side. And actually, I think
And the one behind them has also got one in the rear.
there might be others, actually. I never really peeked in people's yards, but I think the houses are, it's all long, narrow lots. I think everybody pretty much has a detached garage except for the house next door to me now. And they're just kind of making an attachment to the house now.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of the application? Anyone wish to speak against the application? Seeing none, close the hearing and open it up to the commission for motions.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the application of better use of the property without altering the character of the neighborhood.
Second.
A point of order, who seconded it? Okay. All right, motion to approve, Ms. Tata.
Yes.
Mr. Desjardins.
Yes.
Mr. Rice.
Yes.
Mr. Ruzek.
Yes.
Chairman Bernie.
Yes. You have your variance.
Great, thank you.
Next application is 1626, 810 South Colony Road, front yard setback of 5.2 feet, where 40 feet is required by regulations, but there's only 5.2/5.6 now. They're looking for 5.2/2.3. Explain the application, please.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Christopher Giuliano. I'm a licensed land surveyor and professional engineer with the firm of Giuliano Associates. To my left, your right, is the applicant, Mr. Robert Cohn. What Mr. Cohn would like to do is expand the canopy on the existing property. It is currently now is a gas station convenience store operation. It currently only has 2 pumps. He would like to expand the canopy so that he could add an additional 2 pumps. As you're all aware, to be able to service more types of gasoline, more customers, better for business. The hardship in this case is that it's an oddly shaped piece of property which is formed by the intersection of South Colony Street, Connecticut Route 5, South Main Street, and the intersection of North Elm, I think it is, that comes down. And just, it basically has 3 front yards. And as you can see from the survey, we didn't and couldn't put these setbacks on the property because there is no area. It's entirely covered by setback. Additionally, if you look at the survey map, you can notice at South Main Street where the actual property line, street line is, it's very close into the property where you can actually see the islands, and the travel way is quite a bit to the east of the actual property line. So he would like to expand the canopy to 2.3 feet where 5.6 currently exists. We don't believe that this will have any impact on any of the traffic proceedings for South Main. And we've held the current setback on South Colony Street because it is, of course, a state highway, and they are liable to come in and do another taking if they ever need to widen that road. So, if there are any questions, I'll answer them now.
So it's only going to be a matter of inches wider than it is now, is that correct?
It's 2.3 feet.
Feet, okay.
2.3 feet, yes. I'm sorry. 3.3 feet closer than it is now. My apologies
Any
for that.
commissioner have any questions for the applicant? Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wish to speak against the application? Seeing none, close the hearing. Open it up to the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve this application, better use of the property without altering the characteristics of the neighborhood.
Second.
Motion to approve, Ms. Tata.
Yes.
Mr. Desjardins.
Yes.
Mr. Rice.
Yes.
Mr. Ruzek.
Yes.
Chairman Bernie.
Yes, you're all set.
Thank you very much for your time.
Next application, 16027, 166 North Street, wishes a front yard setback of 20 feet. I'm sorry, it doesn't say what, how many feet do you want?
I'm looking to keep the garage in its existing
Sir,
location.
you have to say your name for the
State your
record.
name, please, yeah.
My name is Yves Ouellette. I'm here to represent Mary Phillip and Christine Webster, the owners of the property, as their builder.
Excuse me, can you bring the microphone closer to you, please?
I'm here to represent Mary Phillip and Christine Webster as their builder. The existing garage faces on the backside of North Street. The house is on North Street. The garage faces the street behind it. And that's the hardship. We're facing 2 different streets, and I'm closer than 20 feet with the existing building. I rebuilt the existing structure. We went to remodel it. It was very decayed, and we reconstructed it one wall at a time, thinking that we were able to save part of the building. We saved a portion of it existing, but the other walls were deteriorated to a point where it was unsafe to leave them in the condition they were. And we did end up replacing a major portion of the garage.
As I recall, that garage is right on the street line.
Yes, it's approximately 15 feet off the curb to the door on Miller Street.
And have you already constructed the addition to it, or?
I don't know who originally did the addition to the garage, but we did leave that section in place. It structurally was sound, and we did not touch that.
I don't see anything in the application that actually shows the setbacks. You have the garage measurements here, but and is the garage entry going to be on Miller Street?
Yes. We did not change the location from where the garage was. We used the existing foundation that was there.
So looking at the plan that you gave us, the new garage will be about the same as the structure shown here?
Excuse me? I didn't.
The new garage will be the same size as what's shown on your plan here?
Yes, it's exactly what was there.
And the foundation is there already?
Yes.
And it was there?
Yes.
So what you're doing is you're just renovating that garage?
That's correct. We're trying to make it so it's safe. The walls of the garage are in very poor condition, and when we tried to renovate it, they were falling down. It became a safety issue, and we tore them down one wall at a time. I do have some pictures that show the rot and deterioration of the walls. If you'd like to see them, I can show you those.
You have those with you?
Yes, I do.
Can we keep these? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, by the pictures, have you started new construction yet?
This garage has been rebuilt. I rebuilt the garage and was told that I had to come to zoning I took out a building permit to remodel and renovate. As we started doing this work, the garage was falling down piece by piece, and we rebuilt it. I called for an inspection from the building department. That's when I was told to stop and come for the variance, and that's where we're here.
Mr. Chairman, I got a question for Amy. So they got all the right building permits and everything? This was something that they weren't aware of, that they needed a variance? Is that kind of correct, what's going on here?
That's absolutely correct. There's the definition of rebuild versus repair, and the homeowner and the builder were both under the impression this was a repair job should they have left a portion of a wall, and that was not so, unfortunately, because it became a rebuild, but it is not an addition. There is nothing different than originated there. I was out there on site with the building official. The original slab is there. Construction had taken place, and we advised the homeowners and the applicant that they were in violation unless they came this route, so.
Okay. I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Olet, you didn't change the footprint or the overhangs of this property at all?
No, sir.
Okay, and there are, is there electricity at this location?
Temporarily, there was electricity before. We disconnected it to do the work, and there is temporary power, but there's no power in the building per se at this time. We stopped all the construction until we had this meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this application? Step up to the microphone and state your name and address, please.
It's Rick Termini Jr., 8 Miller Street, Wallingford. The garage that they're building pretty much faces my house. They're great neighbors. They keep their property really, really nice. They've done a professional job on the garage. It's much, much better than what was there, and certainly an improvement to the neighborhood, I feel. And another thing maybe just to keep in mind is that their house, the house next door, and the one after that, the lots, their house is on North Street, but their lot goes from North Street all the way back to Miller Street. So after you get another couple houses down, there's a house on North Street and a house on Miller Street, you know, a few houses down. So they have a garage on the backside where a couple houses down, there's actually houses on that backside. So, but it's an improvement, and they really do a nice job. They keep their yard nice, they're excellent neighbors, and I would encourage to approve it. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of the application and wish to speak against the application? Seeing none, I close the public hearing and open it to the commission for motions.
Mr. Chairman, though we normally frown against this type of work, I really hope it was a misunderstanding and we don't set a precedent, because we could have a line of people here stating they didn't understand what they thought was one way and what the rules are. But I'm going to approve this application, better use of the property without altering the character of the neighborhood.
Second.
Motion to approve, Ms. Tata.
Yes.
Mr. Desjardins.
Yes.
Mr. Rice.
Yes.
Mr. Ruzek.
Yes.
Chairman Bernie.
Yes. You're all set.
Thank you.
Next application is 16028. Location of the property is 108 Hanover Street. And the variance request is to install overhead utilities where underground utilities are required by regulation.
Chairman, I have a letter here.
Yes, would you please read that letter?
It's a letter from Casey Costello, Zoning Board Office. It says, I have received the proposed agenda for the subject meeting, and I have some comments regarding item 8.16.028, which involves a proposed solar PV array to be installed within Wallingford at the Meriden Markham Airport. Drawings submitted in association with this agenda item indicate that the applicant seeks to install utility-grade primary electric distribution facilities within Wallingford. It is absolutely essential that any facilities are owned by and are the responsibility of the applicant and not Eversource. Additionally, these facilities may only be used to collect the output of the proposed solar PV array and transport energy source or electric energy to Eversource. These facilities may not be used to serve any electrical load within Wallingford. The Wallingford Electric Division has a clear and well-defined electrical service franchise area, and this proposed facility may not operate in any manner that infringes on this franchise. Thank you for this opportunity to provide these comments. Please let me know if there's any questions. Best
Thank you,
regards, Rick Hendershot, General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Would you please identify yourself?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Dylan Vanel. I'm the project manager for Solar City, and I've been overseeing construction of this project that we have already started construction on. To answer both of the questions in the letter, all of the utility poles that would be installed in the Wallingford side of the property would all be owned by Solar City, maintained by Solar City, and not have anything to do with Eversource. The 3 new poles for Eversource will all be on the Meriden side, and all of the electricity that's produced and backfed into Eversource's utility grid will be offsetting electrical consumption by the facilities in Meriden. So it will not affect the Wallingford utility infrastructure at all. The background of this project is we had a zoning board approval back on April 22nd of 2015, where we had preliminary designs which didn't really incorporate the correct electrical layout and tie-in because we were still going through the interconnection application with Eversource. So the original plans showed an underground conduit run going.
Why don't you take that and put it on the easel, and there's a microphone up there that you can use.
Hello? So the original plans showed underground utilities going from our equipment at the array back to, it showed it just ending at the Meriden's airport facility. Because this isn't a facility that's going to backfeed directly into their infrastructure, it's going directly into the grid. That was just a preliminary layout for the trenching that was inaccurate. However, we also showed 3 new utility poles directly on Hanover Street, which was approved in the design. There are no utility poles running down Hanover Street, so obviously these were preliminary drawings that didn't take into account how it was actually going to connect. So what I'm asking for at this meeting is, we've already been approved for solar in Wallingford, which was the first approval. What I'm asking for is just to move those 3 poles that were designated to be right here up to where they're actually interconnecting into the Eversource poles. Plans show the property lines, 3 new Eversource poles, 3 new Solar City poles. They're all outside of the 10-foot buffer from the edge of the roadway, and then in between the airport's fence line and that buffer line. There's about 20 to 25 feet total from the road to the fence line, so there's plenty of space for us to put in the poles. We would just be continuing the line of utility poles that's already there. It'll fit in and look, it'll fit in it with the rest of the infrastructure around there. And it's all under a 20-year lease period with Solar City, so at the end of that lease, if Meriden decides to continue to operate the facility, then the poles would continue in place. We can ask for another variance at that time if is necessary. But otherwise, the facility would be taken out, utility poles would be removed, and there would be nothing left in Wallingford for you guys to take care of.
Okay, about how far away from the original proposal will the new poles be?
About 1,500 to 1,600 feet. So they originally showed them just right in the center. Usually we try to keep the electrical equipment towards the center because it keeps all your wire runs shorter and it makes for more efficient electrical production. So that's where the engineers had originally spec'd it out to be. And then given that we're not going to run 12 new poles to get them up to the Eversource lines, change it to trenching back to as close as we can get until we need to use a riser pole to install the utility equipment.
So those poles will actually be closer to the Meriden
Yes,
town line?
they're just over the Meriden border.
Okay.
The last Eversource pole is 5 feet in from the border, and then the minimum spacing between each pole is 25 feet, so we're keeping that 25 feet spacing and just right at the property line.
Thank you.
And Meriden property on both sides of the street there. It's the water treatment plant on the one side and the airport along the other for this whole distance. The landfill's over there. No, I don't think any homes can see this from anywhere in this location.
Anyone have any further questions for the applicant? Mr. Ditchardens?
So, and this may be a question for staff as well. The normal zoning for this area is that utilities need to be subterranean, is that correct?
That's correct. That's the variance they're going for, to have above ground versus underground utilities.
And can you comment, and I apologize if
Sure.
I'm catching you off guard, on any of the history behind why it is that way here? Does it have anything to do with the airport, safety, anything like that? Why utility would need to be buried rather than above ground?
That's not just specific to the airport. That's in all new developments and such too. That's the zoning regulation that applies to all utilities, a preferential underground. So
I think it's because you guys have a private municipal electrical company that services all of Wallingford, so for the same reason that you don't naturally allow solar either without a variance.
Okay, and do you know, well, you stated, and I am not as fresh on the details of the original full plan, there were originally approved 3 above-ground poles that were going to be in Wallingford, and this is just moving those poles, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions. How many more feet would you have to trench to get to Meriden and not have any poles in Wallingford?
We wouldn't be able to, because the last pole for Eversource is about 65 feet from the property line, and they're requiring 2 new poles as well as upgrading that last pole, so that makes them end right at the property line. We wouldn't really be able to go past it and then go back and forth with overhead lines. It doesn't really work that way. They kind of got to be fairly in the straight line. And there just really isn't space to go into the Meriden side and then try to backtrack onto those poles.
And probably the hardest question is, what's your hardship?
The length of the process with Eversource to get through that and the fact that they've approved these design plans would cause significant delays in the project. There would be more expensive options to use pad-mounted equipment, but for the last year since we had the approval on this project, we've been going down the path with Eversource of installing above-ground equipment. That's what they've approved. Time, cost to Meriden, lost electrical production, construction that's already gone too long for this project. Everyone just kind of wants to see this get finished up.
Because the problem I'm having with it is, I mean, I realize it's by the airport and nobody's going to see well, people going by are going to see the telephone poles, but it's not like it's in a neighborhood. But your hardship, I don't see where you have by the rules, a hardship. Your hardship is financial.
Financial, and the fact that we had this approved a year ago and we've been planning and building towards that based off of an approval from you guys which showed above ground poles. I guess that would be my ask for hardship there. When we actually got into building and the electrical inspector was out there, him flagging this issue when it had been approved just in a different location. In my mind, I would like to see that as a minor change to a design plan set.
And probably the hardest question is, what's your hardship?
Financial, and the fact that we had this approved a year ago and we've been planning and building towards that based off of an approval from you guys which showed above ground poles. I guess that would be my ask for hardship there. When we actually got into building and the electrical inspector was out there, him flagging this issue when it had been approved just in a different location. In my mind, I would like to see that as a minor change to a design plan set.
I'm all set, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Tata?
Thank you. Someone kind of touched on this already, but the overhead wires near the airport, that doesn't cause any potential safety
Nope.
issues?
No, all of the FAA notifications for everything that we'd be doing out there have already been completed, so they're,
And also, you would be able to do it underground, but the delays and the costs would...
It would be much more complicated equipment, and we would need Eversource to get on board with it, and I can't necessarily say that they would agree to it completely, just because the design review process with them and what they finally sign off on, and they've already kind of started to procure their equipment that they're going to be installing. I can't guarantee that that would go over smoothly.
Okay. And now, you said that the Wallingford ZBA in April of 2015 approved 3 poles, and you would still have 3?
Yes.
But with a different location?
Yes, and the approved plans showed a trench line, and then it showed the poles here, so we still have the same trench location, just the poles are moving to right adjacent to the Meriden property line.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Have you approached Eversource and discussed this with them?
As far as, we had Eversource out there to discuss the fact that they had a question on if we owned the last pole on the Wallingford side and Meriden owned the last pole on the Meriden side, the conductors that run overhead crossing the property line, whether those are Solar City owned or Eversource owned, they agreed that those would be Solar City owned and there wouldn't be any issue with crossing the property line with those conductors. So that was where we got their approval on the final engineered plan to do this. We had them out on site. We had the Meriden officials out on site. They were fine with everything. And then we came to Wallingford to try to get your approval on this, and that's where we were asked to go back for another variance to change the location. So I haven't directly discussed, we haven't done a redesign to show.
In other words, you haven't discussed with Eversource, if you have to go underground, the project's going to cost more.
I know that it will cost more, and I know that it'll cause delays to the project in
What will the
total construction.
and what would the delays cause? Profits?
Time, lost savings to Meriden for the electrical facilities. I mean, my biggest argument would be that a year ago when we asked for this design, it was approved, and it takes a year to go through the Eversource process and get them on board with what we're installing. And
Eversource seems to be able to move quickly on everything else.
not for the projects I've been working on with them.
I'm done with my questions.
Anyone have any questions? Yes, Mr.
Just one more, Mr. Chair, and this is for either you or staff. When we're talking about the 3 poles that were previously approved in a different location, was that approved by this body or by planning and zoning?
Excuse me, you all in the Zoning Board of Appeals approved that on April 20th of 2015.
Okay, thank you.
You missed it. You can sit down now. Quite frankly, I was on the panel that approved that, and I don't recall any utility poles being discussed, but obviously they were. But now, here a year later, we're talking about a different plan, more or less. And I don't see any hardship that the applicant has proved that would meet our regulations on the way the property is laid out, or it seems to me it's mostly a financial hardship.
I think that the time delays, I mean, yes, it affects financial, but it's more just the time and extending this project out and keeping Meriden happy with the project. Wilma Petro, the manager of the airport was going to try to make it here tonight. She is an advocate of this project and moving forward with the design as planned. She was at a town council meeting over in Meriden. She wasn't able to make it. I guess I just stick to my main argument would be that if you guys approved this a year ago, going back on that just because of the change in location, I think is a little tough on the applicant.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this application? Anyone wish to speak against the application? Seeing none, I close the public hearing and leave it to the commission for motions, et cetera.
Mr. Chairman, although the solar panels probably do some good, I agree with you. I don't remember a year ago, I was on this, when we approved this, even talking about, and I could be wrong, but I don't remember talking about telephone poles. I remember approving the height of the panels. I remember discussing the fence, but I don't remember discussing telephone poles and where they were going to be placed at all. But that's not really the case. The case is now you guys are coming in front of us, and I have a problem with your hardship. I don't see it. So I'm going to make a motion to deny this application on the grounds of I don't see your hardship.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion to deny. Ms. Tata?
Yes.
Yes to deny.
Yes.
Mr. Desjardins, yes to deny?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Rice?
Yes.
To deny. Mr. Ruzek?
Yes.
To deny. Chairman Bernie?
Yes to deny.
Deny. Motion
You are approved. Anyone have anything new, any new business for the commission? Approve the minutes of last month's meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
You're in a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are now in adjournment.